ASU Sandra O'Connor College of Law is set to bring together law students from around the country for a model constitutional convention with students acting as state delegates. And for more on the event, we welcome Stephanie Lindquist. She's Executive Director of the Law College's Center for Constitutional Design. Good to see you again. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Ted.
A model constitutional convention. What are we talking about here?
Well, it's a simulation. The first of its kind, actually. And if people are familiar with Model UN, which many high school students do and college students do, it's very similar to that, except it's never been done before. So this is the first effort of its kind in the United States to bring students together from all over the country to basically debate amendments to the U.S. Constitution.
So basically become a founding father.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
And 5 constitutional amendments are part of this event. How does it all work?
Each state is able to propose an amendment to the Constitution, and there's 2 delegates from each state. So we had a very rigorous application process, and we ended up inviting 100 students, they're law and undergraduate students, to come to ASU. Each is assigned a state, and as I said, 2 delegates from each state, and each state can propose an amendment to the Constitution. We are also what we call seeding the convention with some amendments that had come out of the National Constitution Center that had a project there to identify some sort of bipartisan amendments that might work. So the students are going to debate those. But then they're also representing their states and proposing their own amendments that go through a committee process or vetted through a committee process and then debated on the floor of the convention.
I was going to ask if the amendments had already been decided and here's your amendment, go to it, or I wouldn't mind doing X, Y, and Z. It sounds like a little bit of both.
Exactly. Well, they are able to research and decide what amendments they want. What does that generation of students want the Constitution to look like? And so we wanted to give them free rein to decide what proposals they want to bring to the floor. They have to debate these proposals according to the very rigorous Robert's Rules of Order.
Yes.
And we have a nationally famous parliamentarian there to help the students work through those rules.
I got 3 days of debating and 3 days of all this stuff, huh?
That's right, all over Memorial Day weekend.
And the goal is, again, to learn about constitutional change, reform, amendments, the whole 9 yards.
That's right. I mean, as you know, Ted, the Constitution has not been amended since 1992. And incidentally, the idea for this project actually came because the amendment, the 27th Amendment, was actually advanced by a college student.
Interesting.
Yes, who identified an amendment that James Madison had actually brought to Congress as part of the Bill of Rights, but it was never ratified.
Yes.
And so in 1992, he wrote a paper at the University, or before 1992, a paper at the University of Texas saying this should be now ratified. And so a college student actually did change the Constitution. And so we want to show the world, show the nation, that students from all backgrounds, all ideologies, in our even polarized world can come together to change the Constitution.
Well, with that in mind, I would think that negotiating skills, the art of compromise, I mean, this is a great example, I would think would be a great example for these kids, not only to look at and understand. I call them kids. They're probably not, some of them aren't such kids anymore.
Yeah, that's true.
But I mean, you learn, this is a great way to learn about those
we
things.
think it's a magnificent learning opportunity, and we're so pleased it's taking place at ASU, of course. We're doing it because we had a generous donor who enabled us to fund all these students to come. It's very expensive to fund them to come together, and we hope that lasting friendships are made here, that a new generation of leaders are made here, and that students learn that indeed they can change the future of their country if they so choose through constitutional amendments.
And you mentioned Robert's Rules of Order. I mean, it's not going to be a pie fight here. I mean, we're going to have people behaving themselves,
absolutely,
and figuring things out.
Absolutely, and there are rules of their decorum that they have to follow. And they have a certain limited time on the floor to debate amendments, to speak to an amendment, as they did in 1787, when our founding fathers did come together. They've elected their own president, vice president, and secretary, as did the founding fathers. We have a George Washington.
All right.
And so it is modeled in some ways after the 1787 convention.
And you mentioned this, but I want to emphasize this, overcoming political division. Do you see, I mean, in this day and age, is it going to overcome political division, or are we going to see hardened blocks in there, just like we see in just about every other facet of life?
Well, that remains to be seen.
Yes.
I'm very hopeful. The students that we selected to come are some of the most enthusiastic, well-rounded, impressive people.
How did you pick the students?
We had an application process. They had to tell us why they wanted to come. We looked at their transcripts. We looked at their letters of recommendation, just as if they were being accepted at a university, for example. And it was really based upon the way they described their interest in the convention. Most of them talked about the need for compromise in our country,
Yeah.
and how focused they were on coming to the convention to find compromise with their fellow delegates at the convention.
Okay, so when and where does all this happen?
So it starts Thursday night. They're all arriving in Phoenix on Thursday, all the states. And we've also got the territories represented, by the way, Guam.
Very good, very good.
Yes, and Puerto Rico. And so it's going all the way through Sunday. And we will have a little documentary made about it so people can find out what the students did. And of course, we'll publicize what amendments they finally proposed. And we hope to in the future, do this on at least, an every other year basis.
What do you want the kids, the students, the young people, call them what you will, to take from this?
I want them to take from it, first of all, an understanding of the complexity of constitutional amendments and the Constitution itself. It's a simple document, relatively speaking, only 7,500 words, but making an amendment that can gain sort of the commitment of, and by the way, it's a 75% vote for this amendment, for these amendments to be adopted. So they really do have to compromise.
Yes.
So learning that, learning how to draft these amendments, but more importantly, learning how to negotiate, learning how to stand up and speak to an amendment and to make a persuasive argument to their fellow delegates, as the founders did, right, in 1787. Learn leadership skills. There's chairs of all the committees. We have, leaders of the convention itself. And so they're going to learn leadership skills, compromise skills, and I hope they make really lasting friendships. Those friendships can give rise to coalitions in the future that could really have impact here.
Sounds like a great networking opportunity
Absolutely.
there. And they can learn how difficult it is to change the Constitution,
right.
which is one of the reasons why it doesn't happen very often.
Exactly. They're going to learn that. And they're from more than 70 universities around the country.
Fantastic.
So, boy, they're going to meet people from South Dakota to California to Florida to Texas to Maine. It's really wonderful.
Stephanie Lindquist again, O'Connor College of Law on the Model Constitutional Convention. Good luck.
Thank you. Thank you.